Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and this is Trailer Tuesday, so we are previewing the things that are coming up, but even we're doing something a little bit more on Trailer Tuesday, not just our trailer.
It's not. We have a special guest with us on Trailer Tuesday a few weeks back. It's amazing how fast time flies, and I am reminded yet again how much time influences the way that I think. So for everyone who's ever listened in on a Cut Daisies and Unicorn episode, you know that I can get caught up in time travel and how reality and time affects at least this bodily form of humanity. So hard to believe that 4 weeks ago, when we were working through a system on moving back into the Zoom video format for Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and a special guest, Bill Clark, stopped by and dealt with us for about 2 hours while we worked out all the busyness.
We did.
And so, anyway, we got it kind of worked out. We're going forward with interviewing other people using the same format. But since we shot that, we thought, you know what? Serendipitously, it's too early to talk this way.
Spell it.
No. Spell check it. But that's what we are. We're going to do. So we move into another introduction to Cut Daisies and Unicorns with Bill Clark.
All right. Welcome, Bill Clark. Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns. And we are here, and it's a beautiful day. And Steve, we have somebody with us today.
We do. We have a special guest, a fellow podcast host of On Tap, Mr. Bill Clark. Bill, good to have you here today. How you doing, buddy?
It's great to be here.
I think
this is, I don't know if it's inaugural or what, Cut Daisies and Unicorns. I don't know exactly where I fit in between Cut Daisies and Unicorns, but I assume I will find out.
Yeah.
We're going to discover that.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing, Bill, is that I'm sure this won't be the last time, since you were kind enough to be able to help us work through some of our technical things on figuring out how we're going to shoot Zoom and be able to do podcast or video cast with that. And so anyway, we're really grateful that you gave up moments of your life that you'll never get back so that we could be able to work out the problems that are still occurring.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. I'm a giver, here to serve.
All give.
It's me.
Yeah. Yeah, so with and so Origins, just to think about our moment in time.
Yeah.
Origins just launched this morning. It was late morning, right?
Yeah.
It was late morning when it launched. So as we're recording, things are coming out. So and this will be kind of the nature of how we're doing it. It launches and then we're already recording for the following week. So
and weeks to come.
And the weeks to come.
Yeah, because we're committed to doing the work. Whether the work does us or not, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So without even knowing the origins yet, I mean, because Bill, I don't think you've been able to even have time to listen to the origin story. So without listening to it, what do you think when you hear that title, Cut Daisies and Unicorns? What comes to your mind when you think about that?
I have no clue. When I first saw it, I was like, so who's Cut Daisies and who's Unicorns? Or they could both be Cut Daisies and both be Unicorns. Knowing Steve and his band names like Confessing Thieves and Blackbird Circus, and there's probably some time travel thought process that went through many time zones and back about how you came to Cut Daisies and Unicorns.
Yeah. Well, does the title inspire you for any quizzical thoughts that are in your mind?
it stopped my scroll on Facebook. So.
That's the goal, at least initially.
So it's a scroll stopper.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a car accident. You're gonna look, right?
It's so true. It's so true. And you've been present on multiple variations of all of those things that were mentioned. Wasn't it? Yeah, Bill, you were. Was it Nicole Nordeman that you had come in? Yeah, come in for a concert, and you had Confessing Thieves do the opener for it. That was like one of my favorite memories of that band playing and being together. And then there's been more than a time or two that we have been out on the town as not Confessing Thieves, but Blackbird Circus, in the multiple conglomerations of that. Mm-hmm. And you also Carbon Canaries. I was going to say,
that's right.
Bill, I think you've been to every conglomeration or variation of any band that I've had put together, and you've showed up and were willing to make the trip. So that's awesome, dude.
What about Patterson? Was he there for Patterson?
You know what? Yeah. Patterson 216.
Steve Noble.
316.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Noble, Jason Kopishki, Josh Crawford, who's working on our website. He was the drummer for that. And so, man, so many memories.
Love live music. Live music is the best.
Yeah. And we've experienced it on multiple venues together. Probably the pinnacle and height of was I was jet lagged from coming back from Hong Kong. And I jumped in a car with you and Mark Kramer, and we came out to Philzy's house, and we went and saw the Lumineers and U2 at what stadiums here?
Soldier Field.
Oh, we were at Soldier Field. Yeah. All right.
That was it.
John's laughing. He's like, "Oh man!"
And then after the concert,
oh my god,
we were trying to find some food that was out there, and I was like, "Well, the Cubs just got over. Let's go hit Wrigleyville." And every restaurant was closed. The bars were still open. The nightclubs,
majorly pre-pandemic. I mean, and it was closed.
So we went to Pick Me Up Cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, which had good food, and it was very late, and we had a short night's sleep, and Steve and I and Mark boogied back to Des Moines, and we saw Tom Petty and Joe Walsh the next night.
Yeah, we did. That was, oh man, what a year.
Yeah.
Whew. Wow.
It still makes me weep missing Tom Petty. I never saw Tom Petty live.
Oh.
He was good.
Yeah. And the big surprise, Walsh was incredible. Mm-hmm. I think for both concerts, I walked away and I liked the bands who played first better than the headliner. Now, I'm very grateful for the experience to have seen Tom Petty live before he passed. Mm-hmm. But, now I just watch his DVD on repeat.
Yeah. So Bill, you are a podcaster as well. And so tell me what you've learned over the course of having guests on your program, on your podcast. What have you learned about people?
You got to have good questions. You got to learn a little bit about them beforehand. I usually send out a few questions. But if I can dig up, something about them or something I know about them, that's going to spark some really good conversation, because, you can sit down and talk about, we just did concerts or the time we hung out this or done that. I mean, people are like, okay, whatever. But,
yeah,
when you start having those meaningful, deep conversations that, I think people have those conversations in their head, or they've had them, with other people. And they're just wanting to know other people are kind of having some of those same thoughts and some of those same struggles and some of those same life events. And, my last question on my podcast is, what gives you joy in this journey of life? Yeah. And so I think, everybody's on this journey. And so it's a simple question, but people sometimes struggle to answer it.
Sure.
And others, they're right on it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so even thinking about that concept of why do you think people would struggle with what brings them joy? Is it because the word joy, they don't know, they can't connect with it? Is it something bigger, like I don't even know what brings me real joy? I don't know. That's fascinating though.
I think it depends on where your joy is connected to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or if it's dependent upon. If it's dependent upon people and circumstances.
Yeah.
Then people are always going to figure out some way to piss you off. I mean, that's my experience at least. There's people they
without
work,
even trying.
They work in order to make sure that
wow.
at some point in time, right? Antagonists.
Right, because I was thinking about, we always talk about in our professional work, as we're called pastors. All three of us have been pastors, but you study it in Revelation, like when Jesus comes back and everything's gonna be perfect. And so I was trying to think of some of the things that we're not going to have when Jesus comes back, right? We're not going to have hospitals. Don't need them. We're not going to need policemen. We're not going to need firemen. I don't think we're going to need lawyers because nobody's going to break any of the rules or any laws, right?
Yeah.
And I know we're not going to need any politicians.
And this is one thing that we can always count on when Bill is a part of the conversation is he doesn't even work hard to swing for the fences. He's just going to put it out there. It's like, hey, by the way, and if anyone who's listening holds any of those jobs, you're like, that means I'll be unemployed.
What's my job going to be?
Will you care? That's the point.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is the point. It's so funny.
So, Steve, did you have anything you wanted to pry into Bill's life today?
Well, for whatever reason, I think my externals have influenced me in a derogatory way. Because when my head starts working down problems and I'm troubleshooting and I just get sucked into it. And so my band of creativity has worn very thin in regards to what's gone on technologically.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm just like right there. And if I could be a grumpy cat, or maybe I am the grumpy cat, right now, just because, and it's so crazy because all of this stuff, the technology thing, it's inanimate. It's not alive, or is it?
Is it yet?
So you're having analysis paralysis, is that what you're saying?
Apparently so. Usually I'm able to just off the tip of my tongue just come up with something, but like I'm just at a loss. Yeah. I'm at a loss.
So is
Bill.
this, going back to your original question about what I thought this was, Cut Daisies and Unicorns, is there like a central theme that your eyes are staying on, or is there like this vein, like something you're following, or just
no,
wherever the conversation takes you?
Oh my gosh, everywhere. The conversation. It's like
we've covered lots of topics already.
Yeah, and it's wherever if you can imagine the biggest river you've ever been on, Bill, and then you take that and you multiply it like by 1 billion. That's as big and wide as the river is that we're on, and we're just floating down it, and wherever it takes us. Yeah.
So what we're gonna have? So like if you so when it's just me and Steve, we'll have PS shows. I think you caught that in our trailer. So, but other than, I mean, when it's just Steve and I, we'll usually have some topic that we're shooting towards. Like we're gonna say, hey, like, this show's coming up. We're talking about time travel. We're talking about whatever. But that's usually when we get together, and then we'll break things down, and then there will be segments that things will get weird, and that's just a preview of so ways in which things get weird are wide and varied.
Yeah.
But
then I'll start seeing unicorns and cut daisies, quite literally, right?
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, and without even tripping. I mean, and so yeah, the unicorn is a symbol for the mystical and the things that people are going after that they can't quite get their hands on. And cut daisies really to the frailty of humanity. Just that once a daisy is cut, even in all of its beauty and splendor, its life force, it's been separated from. And so how can we navigate through humanity where we get to celebrate the joy of beauty and what is around us, the things that we can look to that and find beauty in what maybe other people don't see anything beautiful, whether it's a difficult life situation or even just dealing with the sorrow of what humanity brings. And so there's that beauty and yet failed. It's the contemplation of bringing in front of people what humanity could become, and then giving people an opportunity to listen in on conversation, because how Phil and I interact with others isn't necessarily a commonplace practice within what's going on in conversations. It seems like right now there's so much tribalism that's going on where people are bent on division and unity within the comfortable circle. And what we're just trying to do is say, hey, listen in. And so we're using the mystical to confound the practical, so that what we're able to do is challenge people's opportunity for listening and hearing from different places and perspectives that they've not ever heard of before.
Yeah, well, it's been to the forefront really is this tribalism and which side are you on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
One of the best things I think people can learn is to shut up and sit down, right? It doesn't mean that I agree with you.
Right.
It doesn't mean that but I've probably learned far more by truly listening to people that I don't agree with, and respecting where they're coming from. I mean, there's some people that would just, they go on these rants, but if they're giving me a passionate argument or perspective about what they believe and why they believe it, I'll listen to them. Why wouldn't you? I would hope they do the same for me, and at the end of the day, if we agree to disagree, we agree to disagree. They're made in the same image I was.
Well, and I think, Bill, that's what speaks about it is you, of all the people I know in the short time that I have lived, you exemplify, you are willing to go and you go beyond just talking about things. Like, you are a person of action, and so, like, to your point, it's the part of listening and hearing others, whether you agree with them or not. There's just a sense of dignity in that, because of your root and faith-basedness, you're saying, I'm going to let my listening speak to you. I'm going to show you how I can love you in a way that you've never considered. Even though you may not see my listening as love, the reality is when people listen to one another, it's an act. It's an act of love. And it just seems like, I mean, this world, I never had the comprehension that we would live through such division and such escalation. I thought that was historic, and yet here we are. And so we're that's what we're hoping, and that we can be soothing voices in a difficult time.
They say, what's that? History repeats itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true.
If you study the Empire of Rome, there's this little empire that we're living in right now that seems to be following right in the footsteps of the greatest empire there ever was.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Rome, the only thing that beat Rome was Rome.
Yeah.
And it's the same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bill, it's always a good time to be able to see you face to face. Even one day we'll even have you in the studio, sitting down face to face instead of just computer to computer. But everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but Bill Willie is going to be Grandpa Willie, right? So it's always a good time to celebrate with Bill.
Yeah.
That he's going to be a grandpa. And
Yeah,
so congrats.
My dad's a grandpa, but I don't know if, I mean, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it, but it's like, it's a title that I haven't put on myself yet because my dad's a grandpa. I'm not a grandpa, right? So, but
yeah, that's why with my
grandkids,
I'm Papa. So so that way I stay away from the grandpa title. Because I'm far too young to be a grandpa.
I'm sure I will fall into some kind of moniker, one way or the other. So whether deserved or not deserved, but
yeah,
I'll love it anyway.
Well, Bill, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being with us. We really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you guys. You know it. Always love spending time with you. Thanks for letting me, help you through your technical difficulties.
Yes.
And such. So
yeah,
all the best for your podcast.
All right, and everybody remember, if you want to pick up some of those meaningful conversations, look up Bill's podcast on tap, and that's hosted at your regular channels where you hear podcasts and are listening to that. And so I can definitely tell you, as I've listened to it, it's always a good conversation, great questions being asked, and it's a good time. So keep up the good work, Bill.
We'll put a link in the show notes just so people also will make sure they have that. You can just throw that right in there.
All right, beautiful. All right. Well, hey everybody, we're going to tell you right now that we're signing off, and actually, if you haven't heard it, you can know it, but you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on our Facebook page as well. And as the website comes live, which it's not yet, but when it does, we'll let you know about that as well. We got the good news that Apple has approved our podcast for its platform, and so we continue to grab snippets of everything that's going on and look forward to being able to hear your feedback. So, Phil, if somebody had a question for us, how would they give us ask us a question?
So we've got a number of ways in which you can reach out to us. If you like old school, then email is going to be the best way. And so you can reach us at Cut Daisies and Unicorns, all spelled out, Cut Daisies and Unicorns @gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Facebook, we have our... we have all of the stuff, channeled through there. You can hit us up on the messages there. You can hit us up on Twitter, which is Daisy's Cut, @Daisy'sCut there. Twitter made that because Cut Daisies and Unicorns was too long, so they cut it down. Yeah. So that's there, and Instagram. All of those.
CDU.
CDU.
Hashtag CDU.
Yes, that's what we're going to start the hashtag
We're going to start another trend.
All right. So there's multiple ways to get a hold of us, and we are available for you to reach out to us on any of those. We would be happy to respond and engage.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right. Peace.
Well, everyone, we hope that you really enjoyed the time that we were able to share with Bill Clark, that the conversation's interesting. We are a sum of our past, looking forward to the future, but recognizing Bill really has been and will continue to be. He's not passed on. Right. Just a good, wonderful friend. Man, one of the hardest working men that I've ever come to know. And we're looking forward, to what's going to happen on Thursday.
We are looking forward to it. We always have. I mean, and I don't know if we've even we've gotten into some weird stuff, but we haven't really even scratched the surface. I mean, we talked about birds aren't real, but I think it's time for us to really explore some of the other fringe things that we're going to eventually, explore even more.
Looking for experts in these fields.
Right.
In the fields of the fringe.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are of the mindset that you would prefer to deal with your current reality and not head into the fringe,
right.
Hey, this is going to be properly labeled, so you're going to be able to say, I don't want to listen to that. Nope. But there's just some things out there that make you ask questions about what is really going on and how is the rest of humanity dealing with this as they think about it,
right,
as their lives are consumed with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got our subcategory,
right,
which kind of fits into the unicorn part.
Yeah, because it's kind of the, unicorns, we would say mythical or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's in that area of, yeah.
And that's where we blur the lines,
mm-hmm.
is because then we move into that there are people that we have met along our journey together and separately,
right,
who are bigger than life mythical creatures as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's full evidence of their reality and because we've experienced it.
Exactly.
And so, there's some just great things. We have natural inclinations to dive into certain topics just because they come easy to us, because within our universe, the proximity is so close.
Right.
Like yesterday, we were just having a conversation about how we could have musical guests on week after week after week, but it's not our goal to become a music podcast. Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Right. Which it does interest both of us still. I mean, so that we still love to have that that dimension and aspect to it, but we're also breaking out. We're going to say this is big, or this is going to be big topics here.
Yeah, and in theory, some people would say, well, you're so broad that it's all shallow. I mean, or you could be so focused and it's so deep. Yeah. And between deep and wide and shallow and broad, we're going to touch on a lot of different things and hopefully make it interesting. Variety,
right?
They say,
spice of life.
They do say it's the spice of life. So we're going to go ahead and just be teeing up Thursday's episode. Our episode 6 is kicking off.
It is.
Can you believe we have 4 more episodes and we will hit our first 10 goal that we talked about last year in September?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're thinking about breaking this up into 4 sets of 10 for a year's worth of work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on our way and still continuing to try to reach out to the listener and trying to get some more feedback and people to participate. So if you are out there and you are listening or watching, make sure you continue to comment, because that's also going to generate more other comments as well. So
yeah.
So talk about the things that you're, and you talked about the variety.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about motion and stillness, which is a lot of very, I think, applicable. There was a lot of applicable things that could go across to anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's life. There's motion and there's stillness.
Yeah.
And you can be somebody in motion or somebody in stillness. And so I think that those all, like, people are like, yeah, I can connect with that. Now, when we get to the fringe work, you'd be like, whoa, like, this is out there. And we're just saying, just so you know, it's going to be out there.
Yeah, and if you want to prep yourself for some weird thoughts about how and where we're going on this, Phil, why don't you tell them some of the topics we're going to cover on Thursday?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do on Thursday is we're going to talk a little bit about the unexplainable, the UFOs, the aliens. We're gonna talk a little bit still about the birds aren't real, and I mean, because we talked about that, and hopefully you connected with the birds aren't real people over at birdsaren'treal.com. But we're gonna address that, talk about it. There's some CIA stuff that was released about aliens, and so we're gonna dig into that a little bit, and we're not gonna be able to find the bottom.
Oh.
Because we're only going to spend, X amount of time on there. I'm not even going to promise how much time.
So in a real life sharing moment, talking about not, getting to the bottom.
Yeah.
Last week, we were caught up knee deep in sewage water.
We were.
And
we were going to get video for that too, for the podcast, but
it was going to be so good because it would lead into that we look like aliens as we were. Yeah. Long story short, the power-up switch on the sump went out at the church. And in the sub-basement, we had about 9-10 inches of water, and it didn't smell good. And what we know is you can pump water out, but that doesn't always take care of the smell.
Right.
And people are probably saying, what are you guys doing? No, the reality is there's real life. Right. Don't just get caught up with the imagery of social media or the lightheartedness of a podcast when there is real life to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
So if there is any place in you where you're thinking, you know what, I'm not really sure I want to get into this fringe conversation, then that's perfect. Because we will have a Bob Ross-esque topic coming at you soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love Bob Ross. Thanks for bringing up Bob. Rest in peace.
Personally, as the studio opens up, the clay studio opens up, I'm hoping that I can become the Bob Ross of pottery.
I think that's a good aim.
Yeah. I'll just be able to talk in my soothing voice. Might read some poetry online.
And then you take the smudges and you turn them into birds.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're glad that you have listened thus far. We look forward to the journey and the conversation to come.
All right, take care. See you on Thursday.